Echoes was JoJo's first instance of stand evolution, and it always begged the question, well, what if we took this a step further? Some of you know that a series similar to this, and well, names are difficult. I can apply this over because you guys know how much I like changing stuff, and stand-up and Pierce didn't really stick with me, so I'm just gonna change it up for the fuck of it. Echoes has always been one of the stands I get questioned for, and it's around the potential of the stand, but regardless, the video was going to be done sooner or later because I've always had this on the back burner, but it's September, and it's time for me to stop dropping stuff. So, to show my interpretation of Echoes Act 4, I'm going to show all the steps that I went through to get here. So for the first one, you have Echoes Act 1 with the ability of sound generation, or well, how Koichi explains it to be pasting sounds onto others. There are many factors into how Araki created this ability. Koichi mentions Cicada Voice by Bashuo Matsuo, and Araki in his author's note for Echoes, the volume, was about how he would get music stuck in his head and be unable to focus on anything. Then there's Act 2, to where the sounds became real. You could say that these are sound effects in the fullest sense because the sounds come with their effect with Act 2? No? Yeah, okay. There weren't any notes on Act 2, but with how it came to be with the situation with Yukiko, you can make some assumptions off of that. My take is that the saying, words won't reach everyone, came with Yukiko, and that was the exact case, and it took the actions of Act 2 happening to knock some sense into her, sort of. So it's a combination of words won't reach everyone, and actions speak louder than words. Or at least that's what I got from the narrative there. Now with Act 3, I'm not exactly sure on what we have going here. We could say that 3 freeze in specific is the weight of words, but it's just a rhyming scheme. The deepest thing that we got from that is just it rhymes 3 and freeze. So you can see between Acts 1 and 2 versus 3, there's a disconnect going on here. But from that, I knew what direction I wanted to take this into. So I'll set the scenario to where I got the idea all done for. The best area where we would see Act 4 would be when Okuyasu had got hit by the explosive air bubble. Okuyasu just got hit, Josuke screams in reaction to what had happened. Koichi, Jotaro, and Rohan can hear this, but instead, Koichi runs in the direction of the sound instead of staying with Jotaro and Rohan, and most likely because he can actually fucking hear it. While he's on his way, Josuke is fighting the air bubbles as he did before. By the time he gets there, he sees Josuke being blown up from the bubble that had seeped through the wall. Koichi screams in reaction to seeing this, but then he also sees Okuyasu on the gate looking pretty dead. Kira sees Koichi and remembers what Koichi had said to him in their last interaction. He gets a bit tensed up, but he's still fairly confident. Josuke yells out to Koichi, telling him that this newly faced man is Yoshikage Kira, but Koichi could already see Killer Queen, so he's just been standing there, frozen in reaction to all of this. Then, he remembers all that had happened and what led up to this. Shigechi, Remy, and all of those that had died to the hands of Kira, Koichi being gutted, and Jotaro after sheer heart attack. And now, from what he sees, Okuyasu had died, and Josuke, a person that he sees as one of the strongest people he knows, is on the ground, bleeding, fully damaged. Koichi has thought about all of the times where everyone had spoke about catching Kira, and all of the times they've done research, all of this planning, and speaking for us to end up on the losing side. And he's overwhelmed by all of these feelings, and that's when he's tired of it all, and he finally adapts over. He wants all of the words to follow through with their actions, to finally stop Yoshikage Kira. This push from this all takes Koichi into his next stage, Echoes Act 4. Now, this is the area with his new ability. I couldn't find the direct words to piece up what this ability is like, but I guess voice activation in a sense. The new ability is to turn whatever Echo says into an action against the enemy, but not as literal as that. And also, I had a variation given to me by my friend. The phrase itself, which is me, or the poetry itself is what gives the action, which is what my friend said. My friend was the one to tell me that Echoes adapting into his new form would actually give out haikus on what it does, and actually that would be pretty cool. So thank you, Ishrak, on that, and I'm here to mention it. So let me give you an example. It doesn't work in the way that Echoes just says kill Kira and Kira dies, nor does it work in the way that he just says stop time and time stops. Let's say Koichi wanted an adaptation of 3 Freeze. Against Kira, Echoes would say something along the lines of Act 4, you will hold my burden. Then this massive weight heavier than 3 frees is applied to Kira. I also didn't mention that I want to make this ability have more strength when there's a lot of emotion backing it. Another example is that Echoes wants Kira to burn but not die from it or have any actual signs of burning. He only feels it, but there's no actual signs of fire at all or any sense of it. It says something like Act 4, burn with the flames of my hatred. And Kira would feel the most intense burning pain, but there would be nothing noticeable. On the phrases, I wanted one-liners, but I believe if Araki wrote it, he'd be able to come up with full-on haikus on what he wants Koichi to do against whoever he's facing. But on the actions of ability, I only wanted Act 4 to work on a manipulation of perception or feeling. With the burning example, Act 4 would be able to burn Kira because that's an Act 2 accessible thing, and it would actually be easy to incorporate it into 4. But with that, you have a chance of Kira dying from the damages alone. That's why I wanted it to be more on his feelings than anything. If he feels the pain of burning or the weight without actual damage being done, it won't matter because it feels all the same and he actually won't die for it and he'll experience it even more. He could adapt this into a wide array of other things because at that point, it's just it's up to Koichi on what he could think in that moment. So, back on the scenario. Act 4 is out. Koichi is pissed. Kira is amazed but doesn't care about his new form. He tries his hand at another air bubble, but in that instance of creating another one, Echoes Act 4 blitzes Kira and shows up underneath him and Killer Queen. Koichi says a cool one-liner about how Kira should feel like what it's like to be one of his victims, and with a strike to his chest, he begins to feel this breaking sensation. It feels like he's being rapidly burned and torn apart and beating and all that. But what Act 4 actually put onto Kira is the feeling of being blown up multiple times over. Kira is flailing on the ground, and here with this, Josuke goes on with Hayato to repair Okuyasu while Koichi is walking up to Kira on the ground. He sees Josuke crying in reaction to Okuyasu not waking up, and Koichi burns with even more anger than he ever had. He's done with Kira, so he finishes it off in the only JoJo way possible by aura-oraing him beyond belief. And Okuyasu comes to life later on, and this wraps up all pretty easy. DIU's over, Heaven 99, Bizarre Summer, and all that type of stuff. So with this, obviously I was going to prepare some stand stats because for some reason people love seeing these. Act 4 comes here with an A in destructive power. The A here is the strongest that Echoes has ever been, and honestly I'd put its strength on par with Crazy Diamond for it. I was thinking about comparing it to Prime Star Platinum, but I actually have no reason as to why I should do that because that's not where its power has lain. It has an A in speed because there was a constant escalation in speed for Echoes, but for some reason it was always still lower than the scarier stands that we had like Killer Queen. And with Act 4, I'd put it ahead a lot of the stands, actually all of the stands that we had seen, except for those that made it their ability to focus on speed. So basically, around Star Platinum's levels of fast. Its range, I'm giving it back to B, but the range in the ability is inescapable. So if you were to ever escape Act 4 somehow, if you already have a feeling or something set onto you by Act 4, it cannot be removed unless Koichi is willing to remove it. It has an A in durability because since stands represent our personality and spirit and all that, I want to say that Act 4 is the strongest that Koichi's mental fortitude has ever been, which is why I gave it an A. I gave the precision a C because it had never grown and I see no reason as to why I would need to make it even higher, because when Act 4, its fists and power is just enough. And to finish it all off, I gave potential an E since this is where Koichi had capped off on where Echoes is capable of, and along with that, I see this as Koichi's final step in growth. There is no way that any of this affects my actual interpretation of Koichi. We had already been through with DIU. You could just see my Act 4 as speculation, what it's actually supposed to be, or as an alternate universe Koichi where the narrative doesn't affect anyone besides him. That, my Koichi though, not his. With that, I'm finished. Thank you all for watching. Thank you so much for Kuma for the art and everything, and thanks Ishraq for the haiku idea. Didn't really fully incorporate it, but the thought is what counts. I'm so happy to get back into this type of thing because of character concepts, so that was a cool thing to me and I can't wait to do more. And also what I was bringing up, I forgot to script this in, but the whole thing about Act 4, insert thing here, I actually wanted to make that a thing because it was cool. Like the idea for me is cool. Like you started with Act 4, have it with the motions and all type of stuff, and end it with Act 4. If like that's how the haiku would work, that'd be pretty cool. So actually, if any of you guys have an idea on what you want to see conceptualized, feel free to comment. Feel free to comment. I'm speaking too fast. It doesn't even have to be purely JoJo or JoJo related. I was thinking about doing some Hunter stuff the other day, and I might adapt this over sooner or later. So thank you all again. Make sure you comment, like, and subscribe if you enjoyed and you want to see more. And hopefully I'll see you all into the next one. So until then, peace out and Godspeed.